Bean. It's really awesome to have you here.
Thank
you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's start with an introduction. Name, number, serial number, your business. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, my name is Bean Gill, but everybody calls me Bean. I am an entrepreneur. I am a public speaker and an advocate. And Reyu's been open for coming up on 5 years here, and it's been a very wild ride so far.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is Reyu? Tell me about Reyu.
So Reyu is the nonprofit that my business partner Nancy and I created. It's officially called Reyu Paralysis Recovery Centre, where we use activity-based training to reconnect the brain to the body, retrain the nervous system, and redefine what's possible.
That is so awesome. So maybe give me an example of what that might look like in reality. Maybe personal examples, possibly.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the reason why we created Reyu was my own personal journey of recovery after I had a spinal cord injury in July of 2012. And so what my recovery looked like was, first being able to wiggle my big toe, and then being able to contract my abs. And slowly it started coming back. And then when I found activity-based training, my recovery just skyrocketed. And what that looks like now is I have almost complete control of my legs. I'm able to drive my car with my foot. My goal is to drive a standard, so I'm working on that.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, and I can walk with a walker. Have regained so much of my body, so much control, mobility, function, sensation, and most than anything, it's the confidence that it's given me.
I can't imagine. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, if you don't mind explaining a little bit how this came about, and then also, like, even from a medical or biology perspective, what is going on that you guys are working on?
Okay, cool. So how this came about was, like I said, I was paralyzed in July of 2012, and I'll just give you a nutshell version of my story. But yeah, 2012 was, and I hope remains, the worst year of my life.
Sure.
In April of that year, I left my husband after he beat me up for the first and last time. Zero tolerance.
Good.
But it was hard, right?
No doubt.
And then in June of 2012, my dad left our family, and that was, decades in the making, but when it actually happens, it really hits you hard, right? And at that point in time, I was never able to talk about my feelings or emotions. I didn't know how to communicate. Everyone was telling me that I should go see a therapist or go see somebody to talk about things, but I thought I was healing myself by numbing myself and by sweeping everything under the rug and then exploding. And then 2 weeks after my dad had left, I was in Vegas for my friend's stagette, and it was Friday the 13th of all days. And, I went to the bathroom, I walked over to the window, opened the curtains, and saw that it was raining outside. And I remember thinking, that's so weird. When does it rain in Vegas?
Yeah.
Then I walked back to the bed, and that was the last time I walked on my own. I remember what the carpet felt like on the bottom of my feet. I remember getting into the bed with my right leg first, and as I laid down, I had the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my low back. Pain lasted a few minutes, and then I wasn't able to move my right leg. And so as I lay there, I was trying to move both legs. Only my left leg was moving, and a couple of minutes later, it went prickly from my hip to my toes, kind of like a whoosh kind of motion. And I was left paralyzed from the waist down within 10 minutes.
Crazy.
Very.
Shocking, and no doubt, just I can't even imagine the stuff going through your head.
I was actually really calm because I'm an X-ray tech, right? So before I was paralyzed, I was an X-ray tech. Your critical thinking skills jump into play. I'm trying to think about anatomically what's happening inside my body. I hadn't fallen, I hadn't done any drugs, I wasn't, nothing was making sense as to why this would happen.
Yeah.
Called 911 and then, went to the hospital, and then a whole whack of tests and everything, right? And my story is very long and complex, and if you want to hear the whole thing, it's on my podcast, Rambling with Reyu,
awesome.
in detail, episode 1. But yes, definitely flipped my life upside down. Didn't know if I had a future, what it was going to look like, and definitely did not think that I would be an entrepreneur.
Okay, so that's awesome. For starters, thank you. I mean, this is such an incredible beginning to this, and it's just like, wow, right?
Yeah.
So, and okay, I want to get on. I want to go into that a little bit more. You said you never thought of yourself as an entrepreneur.
No.
So, tell me a little bit about when that started to turn, and what that kind of created in you.
Yeah, sure. So, when that started to turn was when I was in California. And the year after I was paralyzed, I ended up in California at a spinal cord injury recovery center. And when I rolled into that place, that was the first time I felt normal. That was the first time I felt like I didn't have a disability. I felt like these are my people and this is my place.
Wow.
Music was bumping, the energy was so awesome and positive. People are high-fiving each other, and everyone's got a disability, right? And yeah, it just made me feel so like, wow, like this is where I belong.
Yeah.
And I remember that feeling, right? And during that trip is when my mom and I went and spoke to the CEO, and we left with franchise papers.
Nice.
And because that's how committed I was, and while I was down there, I met a few people from Alberta who had bought houses in Oceanside, California, just so they can access this therapy. Okay. So I was like, wow, like there's definitely something here, right? If people are willing to make that big of a move and that big of a commitment, something's here. And then I just saw it with my own recovery. In that first week, I saw more recovery than I did in the first year of doing physio here. It was insane, insane. And so that's when the first seed was planted in my head about opening a center here, but I just wasn't in the right headspace, and I wouldn't be in the right headspace for a few years.
Okay. And so, tell me about that journey then. Like, I mean, obviously, listen, I'm caught myself on something. Obviously, there's some things that had to trigger and click and flip along the way. Tell me a little bit about how that transition started to happen over the next couple of years.
Sure. So while I was in California, all of the trainers down there are all exercise therapists or kinesiologists. Okay. And so I wanted to find somebody to help me with my home program when I got back to Edmonton. And so I Googled kinesiology Edmonton, found the U of A, Faculty of Kin, found some guy's email address, emailed him. I was like, I don't know if you're gonna help me or not, but this is who I am, this is what I'm looking for. I'd like a student to help me with my home program. And so he fanned that out to the whole faculty as a job posting, and I got about 12 responses back. And of those 12 responses, one was Nancy. And she has wanted to do this type of work her whole life. She just didn't know she could do it in Canada. She really is. And the way we met was divine intervention, right? Like that we are so opposite. We are completely 180 from each other. There's no way we would have met any other way. And when we did meet, I mean, you know, it was a bit of a learning curve of learning how to work with each other and stuff. But I knew she was the one. I knew it. And so we worked together for a while, and then 6 months later I went back to California. She came with me. We did the Train Your Trainer program, and that's where she got the validation to be like, okay, like what I'm doing is correct, because here there was no one to ask, right? No one else is doing this kinds of things. And so when we came back, I mean, her confidence level boosted, and so then we kicked it into high gear. And on the same thing, like when I was here, I never saw anybody else in a wheelchair out and about. Never. I'd go to a club, I'd go to restaurants, I'd go to movies, and I'd never see anyone else that looked like me. But when I was in California, I saw wheelchair people everywhere. I was like, what kind of bizarre land am I in? Right? Where are all the people? And so I made it my mission to find my wheelie peeps here. And so I did. And so I started networking and going to barbecues and finding all these people. And I would say to them that you need to work out with Nancy. And so she would be going around to people's houses while going to school to train them. That's when we really started to see the need, right? We were like, okay, there is something here. But she was still in school. And like I said, I wasn't in the right headspace. And then it was 2016, and when she graduated, she actually got 2 full-time job offers, one from Florida, one from Texas. And I said, no, 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 no. I need you more. Please don't leave me. And so we tried finding someone to replace her, but it just didn't work because you can't replace Nancy. And so she finally said, she's like, okay, well, if I'm going to stay here, then we got to do something worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that's when the universe was like, finally, ladies, I was waiting for you. Now you're ready. Let me open up this door. Let me introduce you to this person. Let me open up
Crazy.
this door. And things just started flowing. And when you are in alignment with your purpose, like they say, things just happen, right? And that is what just happened. And by April 3rd, 2017, Reyu Paralysis Recovery Centre was a registered nonprofit, and we were open.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, as you were, now, at that point, did you go, okay, I'm an entrepreneur? Or
No.
was, okay. So, do you feel like an entrepreneur now?
Yes, now
Okay,
I do.
okay, so 5 years in, we've got it finally going.
Yeah.
Okay, so even in that, the way I look at it, I mean, what's so amazing about this in my mind is this idea, you have a unique view of the world, right? And you were looking at it. I mean, I love the way you described it. You're in, California and see your wheel peeps, is that what you're calling?
wheelie
I love
peeps.
it. I love it. And here, it just that you had to find it, right? But your view of this world and then the help that you were getting from Nancy and all of these things starting to come together, you're like, there's a problem to be solved here. I want to fix it. But you're not looking at it from a, yes, I want to start a business. You're looking at it, you're trying to help people, you're trying to make it better. Like, what does that look like? And how did the shift go from, this is really working for me to, wow, look, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, what was there a moment that even now, sometime between the last 5 years, where you go, yeah, okay, I get it. It's me, and I am that person.
Yeah, there was definitely that shift. It didn't happen in the beginning. And I didn't start this to be like, I'm going to solve all these problems, right? Or, generally I wanted to help people for sure. That's, I think, been innately in me since I was born. Part of it was selfish as well, because I wanted a center where I could work out too, because my journey of recovery isn't over either. I'm also a client of my own, right? And I don't think this journey of recovery will ever be over, right? And so it is something that I wanted for myself as well, but more so that we could offer it to other people here. And then that aha moment, I can't really like pinpoint exactly where that was, but some of the awards really helped. The first award that I got was a Local Hero Award. And I remember this very vividly. It was in our first year of business. I was having a terrible day because having a disability really sucks, right? Not gonna sugarcoat it. It is really, really hard to stay positive, to get up every day, to put your clothes on and to get out of your house and do things with your life, right? There's a lot of stigmas, a lot of barriers, a lot of attitudinal barriers, which are way more debilitating than the physical barriers.
Makes sense.
And in Alberta, it's a real problem here, right? And so it's not easy. But the reason I did it is because I feel like I have to, right? So that day I was having a really bad day and I was, not in a good mood, right, to put it lightly. And, Nancy and I, we only had a couple of clients at the time. And so I open up my email and I get this email from Northlands. And it's a lady saying that, hey, you've won a Local Hero Award. And you were nominated by this person. And it was somebody I had never met before. She wrote an essay about why I deserved to be a local hero. It was a 2-page essay.
Crazy.
And I've never met this girl. And when they told me this, I was like, what? Like, it just totally out of left field. And so they actually showed me the essay that was written about me and I got to meet the girl who wrote it. And we got $1,000 towards any nonprofit. So obviously I chose Reyu, right? But that was like, whoa, people are noticing I'm doing something big here, right? That was like kind of the first, oh my goodness, what are we doing here, right? And then in 2019, winning top 40 under 40, that was on my bucket list. Same with Global Women of Vision. That was a big one too. I've been a huge fan of Leslie McDonald since I was growing up because she was always on TV, and then to have her name on my phone when she was calling me, totally fangirled, right? I was like, oh my God, it's my time.
That's so good.
Right? And so I think it was really then that I was like, okay, like you're actually doing something here, because we're so quick to minimize our achievements, right? And I think as North Americans, we're we're our biggest cynics.
Especially Canadians.
Yes, right? We're very humble to a fault, and we don't really give ourselves the praise that we deserve. But having these awards being given to me, yeah, that really opened my eyes to like,
outside
wow.
validation. And,
Yes.
yeah.
And then when we moved into our big facility that we're in right now, because we were in a shared space before, you know, it's just like, you know, Nancy and I kind of stood at the front doors and we looked at our space and we looked at each other and we're like, wow, like we did this,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of surreal.
Yeah.
Because on a day-to-day, you're like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that, got to do invoicing, got to do scheduling, got to do social media, got to do this, got to do that, right? But then we don't often take that step back to be like, whoa, look at what we did,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, sometimes we're like, oh my God, what did we do? What have we done?
Sure.
Right? We created a monster that we can't stop now.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop. But it is, yeah, it's very surreal sometimes, for sure.
So if you look back at that and some of the stuff that you've been doing, and I think you are heroic. It's so exciting.
Thank you.
I'm grateful that we can talk today. You know, I remember meeting you in a little coffee shop and just right at that kind of, you're just getting going on that shared space, and you were just talking about what is it going to look like if we get a real space, a big space, and just seeing some of that be shaped into where it is today. It's really, really exciting. So
Yeah, thank you.
and then of course, you know, to have my wife, you know,
Yeah.
helping out too. That's kind of a fun little thing.
Yeah.
Get to hear all the little cool stories going on. But if you were to look back now, I mean, a lot of this was a fortuitous, not so fortuitous situation that brought you to this. But if you can kind of go back and speak into the younger Bean, what kind of things might you say?
Good question. I would tell her that this is happening to you for a reason, right? This happened to you for a reason. Because in the beginning, that was one of my biggest questions was, why me? Why did this happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? Why am I sitting in this chair while my idiot ex-husband is running around without a care in the world, right?
Right.
Why me? What did I do? And like I said, I didn't get those answers for 4 years, right? Reyu is the reason why this happened to me. But going back, I would have told myself that, yeah, like this happened to you for a reason. Don't worry, because everything is going to work out. It's all going to align. Just keep your head down and keep doing what you're doing, right? I would tell myself not to worry so much. I worried a lot.
Yeah.
And stress was a big factor in me getting paralyzed.
Sure.
And so it's really important for me to keep my stress levels down. And that's one thing I would tell my younger self is don't let the big, small things worry you, right? It's not worth it.
I want to dig in on that a little bit. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you shared at the beginning your year from hell, and truly, hopefully, the worst year of your life. You know, you don't want that to come back.
No.
But and that actually starts to kind of draw a lot of things around that as a center of the stress and the elements that were coming at that. How do you manage that now? I mean, running a business isn't easy. There's a lot of responsibility. Like you said, I mean, you've got everything from finances and marketing and people and staff and rent and all these things that are coming at you all the time. How do you manage stress now? And how do you see that, how do you remind yourself that that's not only dangerous, but also, you know, you don't want to just focus on the danger, you want to focus on the positivity that's going to, you know, switch it around.
Great questions. So to manage my stress, I have a routine. I have a mental health routine that I do every single day. It's a practice. I should call it a practice, not a routine, because it is a practice, right? And it took me years to develop it, right? And it's still ever changing and growing. But one thing that I do is every time I wake up, I open my eyes, either out loud or in my head, I say, thank you for letting me wake up. Because so many people don't get this opportunity, right? I've really adopted that gratitude is the best attitude. And my alarm clock is not it's not that. It's positive affirmations. So I have a playlist on Spotify with my positive affirmations, and that's what I wake up to. And those keep playing while I'm getting ready, taking a shower, and whether I'm saying it along with it or not, or just thinking about it or not even thinking about it, listening to those all the time does have an impact. Same way listening to negativity has an impact on you, so does listening to positive things. And then my gratitude, right? So every day I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. I write a positive affirmation, and then 3 things that I'm open to receiving. And I often say those out loud as well. And then just last year, I started doing my gratitudes on my Facebook and Instagram stories. So I just share with everybody what I'm grateful for that day. And the feedback from that has been overwhelmingly positive. And I love that people just respond back to me and saying, oh, this is what I'm grateful for. Or thank you for sharing this because I paused for 3 seconds and thought what I was grateful for. And I think that's so important because we take so much for granted. Right? I took my legs for granted for 30 years.
Sure.
I will never take my hands and arms for granted ever again.
Right.
I will never take my body or my mobility or anything for granted again because I've already lost it once.
Sure.
Right? And so I feel like just having everybody kind of adopt the same thing of, you know, my mindset shift really changed when I went from being sad about what I lost to being grateful for what I have. And I think everybody has that ability to do that. And then staying in that gratitude mindset, staying in that positive mindset takes effort, right? It's those negative voices. I have one too in my head, right? And it's loud. And sometimes it takes over. But majority of the time, I have to work at it to keep it at bay.
Right.
So these are the things, the meditations, right? Journaling, moving your body, right? The act of moving your body really it releases endorphins, right? And so I'm not saying go for a run for 30 minutes, but like, you know, there's wheelchair running, right? And it's just this. And 30 seconds of that, and you're smiling, your heart rate's up, 30 seconds of dancing, your heart rate's up, right? So those are the kinds of things that I do to keep that mindset.
Right.
And then on my bad days, I have to work extra hard.
Okay.
Because I still have bad days too.
Sure.
Right? Everybody does. But you have to make sure that that routine is in place. And when I stop my routine or don't do it for more than 2 days, I start to notice an effect in my body. Stress will manifest itself physically if you don't release it, right? So talk to somebody, write it down, text it out, whatever you got to do, get those emotions out because they will start to fester in your body.
So what I noticed when you said that, there was kind of two elements in my mind. There's the foundation, right? The thing that you do every day. You're taking that and creating this gratitude attitude that you know kind of lays out underneath the positivity, the things like that. And then as the stresses come, that you're dealing with them in different ways, writing them down, getting them out, talking to people, exercising, things like that. And so those are fantastic. Now, when it comes to going back to this idea of entrepreneurship, well, actually, okay, so we covered a little bit on where you came from. Now where? I mean, what do you want to do next? Like, what's?
Buddy.
You've got this idea and this thing, and it's helping people. Where is it going to go?
Hopefully all over the world.
Okay.
My goal is to change the world. And oftentimes people laugh at me when I say that, but this is how I'm doing it, one mind at a time. Somebody's going to watch this and hopefully they'll have a different opinion of people with disabilities at the end of this, right? And so my goal is to, one, help as many people as we can. With Reyu, like I was telling you before, we have a course, an introduction to neuro-exercise specialist. It's online, it's on our website, and we have offered it to anybody who wants to take it. And so then you can start providing those services to your clientele and say you live rurally, right? There's not a lot of people doing what we're doing. And so if we can teach a physiotherapist who lives rurally how to do it, so they can help so many more people. That's part of what we're doing. Our 5 to 10 year plan is to have our freestanding state-of-the-art facility. It's going to be the first building of its kind in Canada. It's going to be very technologically savvy, huge, it's kind of like a one-stop shop of anything that you would need. And alongside that, I would like to have a minimum of 40 units accessible housing. Accessible housing is a huge issue in our city. And so if we can build a building that has at least 40 units, we can sell half of them and the other half we can kind of like hotel style or Airbnb style, because we have a lot of people that come from out of town. We actually have a guy in Ghana, Africa, waiting for his visa to come so he can come to Reyu for 6 months. Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing.
Yeah. So like that's a big part of what we want to do. Again, changing the world, showing people that just because you have a neurologic condition doesn't mean you are worth less. You can live that successful life. You can live it.
So, okay, so let's get, I want to talk a little bit about strategy for a second. So, you know, setting up something internationally is not easy necessarily. So how do you envision kind of making it happen? Is this you just kind of waving the banner and finding somebody who wants to do it? Is it you going there? What's it look like? What would be your ideal?
Okay, first of all, I want to comment on your first statement there, where it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is easy.
Thank you.
Tell me what's easy. Nothing.
Right.
Right? I had this idea that life was supposed to be easy and fair.
Yes.
It's not. So anybody watching, let me pop those bubbles.
Yeah.
It is not easy and it is not fair,
Yeah.
right? Bad things happen to good people all the time.
All the time.
So be prepared for it,
Yeah.
right? And so I think when you first stop thinking about things to be easy, that eliminates that barrier.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I already know nothing's going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I fully believe that this is going to happen. And the strategy for that, I mean, you know, we're putting in our application for a charitable number this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to increase the ability to fundraise the big amounts of money that corporations donate because they need tax receipts,
Sure.
right? So that's something we've been missing, but we purposely didn't do that because we weren't ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big step in getting those big donations. And then just networking, right? Telling people what we're doing, showing them that it's working.
Yeah.
We have kids that were told they're never gonna sit up. They're walking. Okay, they're talking, they're making eye contact, they're interacting with their environment.
Yeah.
Like it's, I wanna say crazy, but it's not because
Yeah.
it's science,
Yeah.
right? And you asked me before, sorry, about what the mechanism is of
Sure.
what we're actually working on.
Yeah.
We actually don't know. The researchers
this is even
the
better.
researchers are doing that part. We just know it works.
Right.
We don't know how intrinsically this central nervous system is either rewiring itself, rerouting, regenerating. We aren't actually sure, but that doesn't matter because it's
Yeah,
working.
right. Who cares? Like,
Right?
It's getting done.
Somebody else is working on that, so good. Please work on that. Please still fund them because
Yeah.
we need to figure out those answers. But we just know this is working, so we're going to continue to do it.
That's so fascinating. So you just came back from a trip, and did you have some vision for, you know, seeing some Reyu somewhere else?
Yeah, well, I went to Mexico for my birthday trip early January, and it was so nice to be in somewhere warm when it was minus 30 here. And so,
I think we can all identify with that.
right?
Yeah.
And so it just motivated me to like have a Reyu in the tropics.
Yeah.
What's stopping us,
Right.
right? Really, the only thing holding me back is me, my limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And if I believe it can happen, I believe it can happen. And like I said before, statistically, wherever there's able-bodied people, there's going to be people with disabilities.
Right.
Statistically, right? And so the need will always be there. It's just the matter of, how do we get there, right? Well, how do we fund this? What kind of building do we need? What kind of staff do we need? Those logistical pieces,
Yep.
which I think are kind of the easy part.
Sure.
It's the money.
Yeah.
We need money,
Always.
always.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the guy in Ghana, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be amazing to, you know, see that kind of go. And the positive work you're doing is so cool and encouraging on top of it all.
Thank you.
Okay, so getting back on the idea of being an entrepreneur and working through the belief that you're an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
and seeing that, how do you? Well, tell me a little bit more about your team and how you've kind of built it and what you're trying to do, and how do you see that evolving over time?
Sure. So it started out with just Nancy and I. And when we hired our first staff member, I just remember I was so giddy because I've never been a boss, right? And when we hired her and stuff, I was like, it was really exciting for me because this is the firsts of everything. And I remember giving her first paycheck, and I was like, like, here you go, right?
That's great.
It was so exciting for
Yeah.
me. But then a lot of growth had to come with that too,
Sure.
right? And so we ended up hiring her, and then a couple of months later we hired another girl, and we ended up hiring a couple of our practicum students as well. And so now we're at a team of 13 people, right? So we have myself, we have an event coordinator, Nancy, who is the lead neuro-exercise specialist, and then a bunch of other neuro-exercise specialists, simply because the demand has been out of control.
Yeah.
And seeing our team grow has been really awesome, scary,
Sure.
right? Because you don't know what to expect. And like Nancy and I have both worked in very toxic work environments before. And we both decided that Reyu will not be that. We want to be different employers. We actually care about our employees. We want to see them flourish. We want to support them to succeed, right? We would never try to sabotage anybody or, you know, when there is conflict, because that's normal. When you have different people and personalities, conflict will arise. But learning how to resolve that conflict in a healthy, mature manner, right? Providing our girls, because they're all in their like early 20s, right? So providing them with the knowledge and tools that I've learned in the last 9.5 years of doing therapy, right? Coping mechanisms. When they come to me and tell me I'm really anxious, I'm really stressed out right now, like what I've done is taken them to the back, put on a grounding mat, lay them on it, turn the lights off, put a meditation on and meditate together.
Nice.
Right? And then that's within their break.
That's a work environment.
And then they go back to work and they feel good. Right? Whereas, you know, if I had said that to my boss at AHS, he'd be like, I don't care, go work. Figure it out when you're done. Right? And was like, we just want to be different. And we want to create that work environment too that is supportive and loving. And it's funny because we're all women who work there. And this is a mainly like male-dominated field. So it's so odd to us that we only have women, right? But our women are strong and they're smart and they are capable. And the feedback what we get from them is they have felt that they can do anything. They're never underestimated. Whereas when you have an environment with men and women, oftentimes the women get underestimated. And it's not like we're against men. We had a couple work for us and we have a few male students right now too, right? But being able to show that and be able to like get these women who are in their early 20s to have that confidence, right? Like it's just, it's really fulfilling and super rewarding.
Well, that brings up a really interesting point, and I wanted to dig on that. You have said that, you know, you didn't really identify as an entrepreneur in the beginning, and now you feel more like one. But even when you start to put puzzle pieces together in a room, the staff that you have, the team that you have, you know, and really, you know, working to avoid a toxic environment. In fact, in the opposite, creating a real flourishing environment. It's a bunch of different talents. So how would you say what is your talent set that you're kind of bringing into the table? And really, how are you dealing with the ones, like what are the points that make you struggle? What are the things that you realize or recognize that you're just not good at? And then obviously staffing as part of it, but how have you brought those pieces together to fill in the model that you needed?
I think we're still doing that, to be honest. So, okay, I forgot the first part of your question.
When you started, what did you feel like your core talents that you were bringing to the table, and then how did you start building around it? Okay,
so for myself, I feel like my positivity is my talent. And for me, it's just innate. It's just in me, right? I can't really explain like what it is, but it's just in me. And so having that upbeat energy and like really interacting with all of our staff, and you know, I do check-ins with them, not every day, but like when I can have a few minutes here and there, I try to, you know, find out what's happening in their personal lives and, you know, give them some tips and encouragement based off my personal experience. And then again, like I said, the 9.5 years of therapy that I've done has given me a toolbox that's huge, right? And so I get to share those tools with them, and they can use that whatever they're facing in their lives, whether it be personal or professional. And then for myself, like one of the hardest parts, and I'm still working on this, is delegating tasks and relinquishing control and trusting people, right? Because it's really hard. Like Reyu is my baby. Right? And so, you know, would you give your newborn to somebody and just be like, okay, see ya, have fun? No, right? You would be like, okay, here's this list of things, here's exactly what to do. And so that's what I kind of feel like, right? So now Reyu's coming up into its 5th birthday, so it's that toddler kind of phase where they can be a little bit more independent. So I'm really working on myself to relinquish that control and to be able to trust people and to know that they have Reyu's best interest at heart as well. And, you know, if mistakes happen or whatever, we fix them and we move forward, right? And I always know, like, I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. And so I want that feedback too. So I always tell our staff, like, give us feedback. How can we do better and be better? How can we support you better, right? What are we doing that's missing? Because we know we're not the best. No one is, right? And so I think having that mindset of wanting that feedback from them, and I feel like that gives them some power too, to be like, oh, well, I can actually tell you this and you're not going to get mad at me, right? Where it's that safe environment where maybe my feelings might get hurt, but at the same time, I'm a big girl and this isn't about my feelings. Right?
Yeah, because I think that when I think about entrepreneurship, a lot of people think they have to do it all themselves. But even if they are only strong in one area, I love that you're strong in positivity. That's such a, not a random thing. In fact, it's probably one of the best. But you know, you might be coming from a sales background, or you might be coming from an operations background, or a financial background, or whatever, and that's kind of where we end up. But then we start filling in, or feeling like we have to fill in everything else. So, you know, are you bringing a financial talent? Are you bringing an operational talent? Are you bringing those kind of, you know, pieces that we know that are part of the business to it? And if you're not, how are you kind of finding those people and bringing them in?
Great questions. I had to learn about a lot of these things, right? Like I didn't know how to run a business, let alone a nonprofit, right? And so I had to learn about funding. I had to learn about how to invoice and do all the month-end stuff. And you know, having your wife there as our bookkeeper is awesome. I love her. Saves me a lot, right? So I had to learn about that kind of stuff. And we, like Nancy and I knew, bookkeeping is not our forte, but we knew it had to be done right. That's why we outsourced it right from the get-go, right? So knowing where your weaknesses are and knowing that you're better off outsourcing it and paying that money to have somebody else do it is better, rather than struggling, and then because you're going to end up paying tenfold in that of what you would pay, right? And then as far as like all of these other little pieces, like you just kind of learn on the fly. And I'm a firm believer that your network is your net worth. And so I did a lot of networking even before Reyu was opened. And I mean, COVID has really slowed a lot of that stuff down, but it's starting to pick back up again. And so I firmly believe like you meet people, you keep them in your pocket, right? And you keep that relationship with them. And then when the time comes for their services to be needed, ask them for help. Right? And 9 times out of 10, people are going to help you. So like it's knowing that you aren't the best at everything, but other people are, and using those people for, you know, what their strengths are.
So good. Last kind of avenue, and then we'll kind of close up a little bit here. But got any good disaster stories that you had to kind of really wrestle through? I mean, aside from just, you know, the obvious challenges that have been there, but maybe one thing that you feel like you really messed up and just look at it and go, oh, and then how you backpedaled, if you will, out of it?
Yes. Okay. So this comes with trusting people to do their jobs, right? So a couple of years ago, we put in for a grant for this piece of equipment that's $40,000. And so it's a matching grant, right? So they pay half, you pay half. So it was a government of Alberta grant, I believe. And so we applied for it, we sent the application in, whatever, and then you don't get a letter saying yay or nay until like months later, right? So it was, we applied in September and we got this answer in about January, February. The answer was no, because our organization has been dissolved. I was like, what? No, it didn't. I'm sitting in it. What's happening? So the legal firm that we had do our registration was set up as our registered mailing address. And so our annual returns were going to them. And because we were their pro bono case, we kept getting bumped to the lowest level lawyer. And in that couple of years, we had like about 5 or 6 different lawyers on our case, right? And I think somewhere in that, those annual returns got lost and they did not get sent back. And so because the annual returns weren't being sent back, the CRA was like, oh, well, this company doesn't exist anymore. We're going to shut it down. So that was very stressful. And so I talked to a lawyer. I was like, what do we do, right? Are we even legally able to operate right now? Because we are. And so, it was just really just a bunch of paperwork. And so our lawyer had to, resurrect our, our organization. It cost us a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Doing compressions on our front door.
Yeah.
It was just, it was stressful, and it was like, oh my goodness, like how did this happen, right? So after that, Nancy and I, we started a spreadsheet of things that need to get done and the dates they need to get done by. And these are non-negotiables, very important things, right? So now we have that list. We return our own annual returns. We're back in control of that. And so then that kind of goes back to that, how do you trust people? Right? When things like this happen, and it's a law firm that's supposed to like have really good reputation and like, you know, they do good work, but how do you trust people? So yeah, that was a big conundrum that happened.
Well, it's really interesting. There's so many moving parts, and I mean, how's your joy level in general now as an entrepreneur?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah?
I could never work for anybody else.
Right?
Yeah, never.
And so it's, even though you didn't identify it in the beginning, you're now like, I love this.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's hard, right?
Yes,
it's stressful at times, for sure.
But what isn't?
What isn't? Yeah, exactly, right? Like working at the hospital, that was also stressful and hard, and asking somebody for time off and asking somebody, hey, I have a doctor's appointment, can I have this time off? Where now I don't have that, I just have to share it with my team, like this is where I'm going to be, still reachable, right? And but still have that freedom to live my life, because like I said, my journey's not over. I have a lot of medical appointments still, right? To keep this body functioning, I have to take care of it. And having a job and being an employee of somebody else, I don't think I would have that leeway to do all the things that I'm doing for myself as well. Right.
So, new person sticking up their idea, going, hey, I wonder. What would you say to encourage them or get them off on the right path? What kind of things could you inspire them with?
I would start...
Or caution them.
Well, yeah.
One or the other, both.
I would start by saying keep wondering.
Yeah?
Keep wondering.
I love that.
Don't ever stop wondering.
Yeah.
Because when we stop wondering, that's a stop of innovation.
Thank
right?
you. So good.
Yeah, so always wonder. And it's funny because my sister, my little sister, always used to ask questions, and my dad would tell her, stop wondering. Right? Because she would ask so many questions. But I would tell people to continue to wonder. And then do some research. Right? Who else? Is there anybody else doing what you're doing? Start following them. Start interacting with them on social media. Start emailing them. Ask them for questions.
Wait, that's competitors though.
Yeah, but don't you want to know what your competitors are doing?
Thank you.
Right?
Of course.
And see how I see things as other centers like mine. I don't see them as competition. I see them as allies.
Yes.
Right? Because in our business, I just feel like there's so many people to help. Go help them.
100%.
Right? Go do it. I don't care. You know, there will always be enough clients for us. There's enough clients for everybody. So just go help them. And then for myself too, like, you know, I contacted other businesses like ours, and I asked them, hey, like when you guys were hiring, what kind of questions did you ask? What are you looking for? What traits are you looking for in proper trainers? When you're training them, how did you train them? Right? And people were very forthcoming because, I mean, you know, we're in Edmonton, and the people I was asking were in California. So I'm not stealing your clients, right? And all of us in this business have that same kind of attitude where we just want to help people. And I think a lot of other businesses are like that too, because when a lot of entrepreneurs open their businesses, they're in the same boat, right? And they genuinely usually want to help. I'm sure there's people out there that don't, and that's fine, but I think most people do. And then I think just like, never stop asking questions. Network. Go out there, network yourself, and then market yourself. If nobody knows about your business, it's great. You could be doing awesome things, but if nobody knows about it,
the worst title in the world is best kept secret.
Yes. Yes.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
It's not good for marketing.
No, it's not.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, where do we reach you? How do we find out about you? Tell the world how to make sure they know the great work you're doing.
Sure, yeah. So we are at, our website is www.reyu.ca, reyu.ca. From there, you can find our contact information. We're on social media. My personal Instagram is Branzoid or Reyu PRC. We're on Facebook as well under Reyu Paralysis Recovery Centre. My email and phone number is everywhere. It's not private at all. bean@reyu.ca is my email. And I'm open to talking to anybody about really anything.
You've been great for that.
Thanks.
This is great, Bean. I'm so grateful for your time today and having you come out. And it's not only a breath of fresh air, but just so encouraging
Thank
to
you.
learn and watch and see. And I actually am fascinated with this idea of no entrepreneur to entrepreneur and what that means. I mean, really, this is what the stories I'm trying to get out is,
Yeah.
is everybody can be an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
even sometimes if they don't want to be. It's just this opportunity to go and make the world a better place.
Yeah, for sure. And see yourself for the boss that you are.
Yeah,
Right?
love that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
You bet.